Ukraine's former President Petro Poroshenko has been busy rallying volunteer fighters and soldiers. He's among a growing list of people demanding safe passage for civilians.
We will win with or without Western assistance, because you see how strong is Ukrainian, but it takes significantly more time and will need significantly more lives and blood. And this is just the decision from our partners in the West. Do you ready to give us the weapons? Do you ready to increase the sanction? Do you ready to do all of this to minimize Ukrainian lives? Please do that immediately.
Amid increased calls for sanctions from Ukrainians on the front lines, U.S. lawmakers are moving ahead with a proposal to ban imports of Russian oil, even as our allies in Europe, who are much more reliant on fuel from Russia, particularly gas, remain unwilling to do so. But as the national conversation once again returns to the various bad actors the U.S. must deal with as part of our decades-long addiction to foreign oil imports, some of the usual suspects are calling on the U.S. to double down on its own production of fossil fuels instead of transitioning to a green economy. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia demanding the U.S., quote, ramp up domestic energy production, increase access to our abundant resources. And Senator Minority Leader Mitch McConnell accusing the Biden administration of, quote, a holy war against our own American energy production. It is worth asking, after nearly half a century of this kind of thing, why we don't actually look for a sustainable alternative. Senator Jeff Merkley is a Democrat from Oregon. He participated in a bipartisan Zoom call with Ukrainian President Zelensky over the weekend. He's a staunch supporter of our efforts to get off of reliance on fossil fuels. Senator, I think that what we're seeing right now gives lie to this whole notion. 50 years of increasing U.S. domestic production. It's not a question of where the actual stuff comes from. It's fossil fuels priced on a global market, subject to these kind of things. This idea that we can drill our way out of this has been proven to be madness. Do your colleagues understand this?
As long as there is a world market for oil, Russia will be able to sell its oil. And so, unfortunately, not all my colleagues yet understand that the way to undercut the power of Russia is to end our dependence on oil and have the world transition to renewable energy. And I was very struck by that 50 years of history you had. But back in the days of President Carter, there were two things that we didn't know at that point. One was that tremendous climate impacts of burning fossil fuels. And the second is renewable energy was very expensive at that time as compared to fossil fuels. Now it's cheaper. So we have every reason to pivot quickly. We should be having a national American solar program. We should have a climate emergency. We should be transitioning to offshore wind, and we should be doing it in partnership and leading the world in this effort to end this addiction to oil, this damage to the client, and the enrichment of people like Putin.
Yeah, I mean, your point about the technology and the feasibility now as compared to 50 years is really important. In fact, today we're seeing the EU try to sort of propose this crash course to sort of get off the natural gas. And the plan, which will be presented on Tuesday, will propose steps such as tapping new gas supplies, increasing energy efficiency already this year. It aims to deliver independence from the region's biggest supplier of the fossil fuel well before 2030, sooner than previous projections. But again, all this stuff takes time, and we should have started long ago. But we do have an advantage now from a technological standpoint.
Well, I was thinking back to the conversations I had at the Munich Security Conference years ago and at the Paris conference. Why is Europe doubling down on fossil gas? Because they know how damaging that is. They said they're committed to renewable energy and not only fossil gas, but dependence on Russia. And Germany had a theory. They had a theory that if Russia depended on Europe for this big supply of money for the sale of its gas, that Russia would always behave itself. Well, certainly what's happening right now in Ukraine has shattered that assumption. And we see Germany really changing their thinking very quickly.
Germany also had a plan to shutter a bunch of their nuclear plants, which provided a lot of power, which seems to me, in the wake of this, I mean, it's the largest source of carbon-free power on the earth. Like, I think the verdict on that is that was a mistake. Do you agree?
I do agree. And the Green Party had always recognized the downsides of nuclear energy, the concern about where you store the waste, the possibility of a Chernobyl incident, a meltdown. And those are real issues. But the Green Party is about saving the planet. And to save the planet right now, substituting gas for nuclear energy at safe, well-established facilities is a mistake.
All right, Jeff Merkley, Senator from Oregon, thank you so much. Appreciate it.